Hello, everybody. Here we go, day 3 of Let's Write a Novel Together. And just as a reminder, we're using Story Genius by Lisa Cron to get us started in the story. Not going to use her for the bulk of it, but certainly to get started, I don't think there is a better process. So either Lisa Cron's book or Blueprints for a Book by Jenny Nash. Both of these are great processes for getting you started and really understanding why you're writing the book that you're writing, why it's important to you, what you want to say about the world with this book. And what I think is great about this process is as you go through the exercises, you may discover that the idea you've got, it's not that good. You're not loving it. You're not passionate about it. It's not the one that you want to spend the next year or more writing. And so that's great. You know that then. So rather than starting to write the novel, getting halfway through and then discovering that this isn't going anywhere, it's not the story you wanted it to be, you get to figure this out up front and do a lot of that pre-writing work. Now, if you have been part of my Be a Bestseller series, you will have heard Danica Bloom talk a lot about this. The pre-writing is just as important, if not more so, than the writing itself. And it's been estimated that 90% of writing a book is done in that pre-writing and the thinking that goes on around the actual putting words on the page. So really important part of the process. And remember, this is a process. So if you discover that the idea you've been working on with me or on your own isn't working, that's fine. That's part of the process, and a process of working out which story you do want to tell. I've been through this many times in the last 6 months with different ideas I've had, and this is the one that has stuck with me so far. So that's why I thought, okay, I can go ahead and do this little experiment together with this series of videos and work my way through it so that I've got something to show you. I've got something to share with you as we go. So yesterday, day 2, we were looking at asking the question, or Lisa was asking us the question, why do you care about the story? And I care because it's looking at alternative therapies to mental health issues, and alternative therapies generally is something I'm very interested in and do believe in very much. Yes, there's a place for modern medicine, but I think the more holistic view of health and well-being has a lot to offer still, and we need to move back towards that and retain our natural immunities and our natural health. So that's one of the things the reasons that this story is important to me. Oh, the next question that Lisa wants us to address is, what is your point? So she's asking, what's the point that you're trying to make in this story? As one of my coaches, Thorn, would say, is, what is it you're trying to say about life with this story? And that is I prefer that way of thinking it. I'm not quite so keen on the terminology that Lisa uses here when she talks about the point of the story. But I think the idea behind it is right. There is something that we're trying to say about the world, about ourselves, about life generally with the stories that we tell, because after all, stories are how we make sense of the world. That's how we sort of understand how other people move and work and react in the world. It's how we make sense of what we see on TV, of how people respond to us and our responses to them. How we negotiate new situations is fed by the stories that we've taken in our past, not just novels, but cartoons, TV shows, radio shows, audiobooks, any tweets, anything that is sharing a story or an anecdote about something. We absorb it and it all comes into our head, and the mind does what the mind does and sort of filters through it and uses that to help us manage the world in which we live and move in the world we live. So the point of the story is where you're thinking about, well, what is it that you are trying to say? I find this hugely difficult. I've worked on this for my last novel, Follow Me, which is due out later this year, and I do find it hard. Lisa Cron asks us to think about this up front, and in theory, I think that is probably the most efficient and best way of doing it. In reality, particularly if you're writing your first novel, this just might feel a bit too out there right now. And in fact, you're tackling, you know, the actual writing of the novel is enough of a challenge for you right now. Trying to think about these abstract points and what you're trying to say about the world is perhaps just not ready. You're not ready for it yet. But if you are, and you know the point of your story, you know what it is you're trying to say about life, about the world right now, fantastic. Go ahead and write that down in a few lines, just a few lines, what the point of your story is, what you're trying to say about the world. If you're like me and you find this actually really quite a conundrum, have you got a sort of idea about what it might be? Is there something that, even if it's, you know, it's not really what you're trying to say about the world at this point, is there something that you can just jot down and have to hand in your notebook somewhere that you can come back to and refer to and refine as you go through the story? Because what I've discovered is that the point of the story often does not come to me until I'm about 3/4 of the way through. I might even be in revision stage, and suddenly I'm writing a scene or I'm writing a conversation and that's it. That's the point of the story. But it takes a while for me to get there. So if you're like me, just have a general idea of what it is that you're trying to say about the world, and then you can come back to it. So I'm thinking about my story before the end right now, and I think it's to do with being a parent, and it's to do with being able to look after yourself, being able to look after a child. And I think the point that I'm maybe going to be making is that none of us know what we're doing. No parent really knows what they're doing until they've experienced it a few times, and that fear is completely natural and is a good thing as well. I'd say probably you need to have that a level of fear so that you're on alert, that you care, and that you're going to do the best that you can for the life that you are bringing into this world. So I think that's what I'm trying to say about the world with my story. I think that is my story point. What about you? Do let me know below. Do you have a rough idea of what it is? Have you worked through Lisa's book before? Have you had to work out the point of your story in the past? And if you have, how did you find that process? Was it easy peasy, lemon squeezy? Or was it more like my experience, and it's really actually quite tough, and it takes quite a while to figure out and really nail that phrase and nail exactly the point that I'm trying to make? Yay, do let me know. Okay, I will see you next time.